Live from the KHOU11 studios, it's Great Day Houston. And now, here's your host, Deborah Duncan.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Great Day Houston. Today's show is about a different way of approaching our health. Houston is home to the world's largest medical center. We don't only practice a whole lot of medicine, there's also a lot of research going on here, including the value of so-called alternative medicine. But as patients, many of us still believe our cure can only come from a pill or a scalpel. We're just now getting used to the idea of lasers and ultrasound as a method to help heal our wounds. Basically, it's energy. Our first guest says he does not use machines to deliver the energy because the healing force can be your own body. It's called Reconnective healing.
It's not an energy healing technique. It doesn't require steps, doesn't require rituals. Clean, it's clear, it's grounded. It's practiced by lay people around the world. It's practiced by doctors in hospitals as well as in their own private practices.
Patients have said it's fixed everything from chronic pain to cancer. That's a big claim. So how does it work? Here to explain, please welcome author of The Reconnection, Heal Others, Heal Yourself, Dr. Eric Pearl. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
All right. This is one of those things that people will say, this is crazy talk. But if you look over history, it wasn't long ago that we said using lasers and we thought that was science fiction.
We did.
That wasn't real. And today it's a normal part of medicine.
We find that we go forward and backwards. We go back into things that we've discarded and find that they actually have value and use once again.
Yeah, because ancient civilizations may have thought some of these things as well, and then somehow we kind of got rid of it.
And we also move forward into different technologies. Today there seems to be more, and we are able to access our own levels of energy, but at an expanded level of energy than we've been able to access prior to now. That takes us into more coherent levels of light that allow the body to return to an optimal vibration and let our densities, which include mostly a lot of our health challenges, to just fall away.
Okay, you said a lot of stuff in there, and
Yeah,
we're going to
I did.
explain
Sorry.
that a little bit more specifically a little bit later on. But I first wanted to start off with, you got an indication early on as a child that things were a little different for you.
As a child? You mean that my mother died giving birth to me?
Well, you came into the world with some struggles there, but just in things like the watches, that what you found happened with watches.
Ah, yes. And by the way, my mother had a life after death experience giving birth to me, but she did come back to life, so she did raise me.
Yeah, so
I'll
she's
just
good.
leave
Yeah,
you that.
yeah.
Yeah, my grandfather would have watches that he would keep forever. Every time they would break, he'd get them fixed. They'd break, they'd fix them. And then he saved them all in a box because he, for some reason, couldn't part with them or throw them away. One day, he gives me a box of his watches. I find that as I hold them, they start clicking again. Pretty soon, my friends bring me their broken watches. Then my friends' parents start sending my friends over with their broken watches. And as I would hold them, they would start up. Now, we know that a lot of people can't wear watches because they break. For some reason, I was the opposite.
Was that strange to you?
No, nothing is strange to you when you're that young because you're discovering life. So everything seems natural and normal. Everything did. Even when these healings began, it seemed a combination of something I'd never experienced before and simultaneously something more familiar than anything I'd ever experienced.
Very normal for you. And that act of healing is something that is normal for you. You like to heal people.
Well,
Or help
it
people
is
heal
now.
themselves.
I mean, it was a surprise. It was
Yeah.
definitely a surprise. I mean, a lamp turned itself on next to my bed and woke me up. I felt as if there were people in my house. I figured it was my imagination. I went back to sleep. But that Monday when I went into my office, my patients started telling me they could feel my hands before I touched them. As I held my hands near them, their bodies would go into involuntary movements. Their eyes would dart back and forth. They started reporting seeing colors they'd never seen, smelling flowers they'd never smelled before, and they started demonstrating healings right there in front of our very eyes.
Now, by this time, you were a chiropractor, correct?
I practiced as a doctor of chiropractic for 12 years when this began.
So all these strange things start happening almost overnight.
Overnight, not even almost overnight. I went home. I went home in the middle of the week thinking I was a doctor. I came back in on a Monday and I was something else. My parents had always told me I was something else, but I don't think this is what they had in mind.
All right, so these strange occurrences start happening. Was there a revelation right then that you could harness that energy from those strange occurrences, or how did that happen?
Well, as I said, I went in to see my patients. I adjusted them as a chiropractor.
Right, which means that you're usually putting your hands on them and
My
doing...
hands were on them.
Yeah.
And then when I'd finished the adjustment, while they were lying on their back, I would tell them to close their eyes and relax for a moment or two to allow the adjustment to settle into place. I wasn't touching them any longer. But when they opened their eyes, they started telling me that they felt my hands on their forehead and their arms and their ankles all at the same time, which is a little difficult to do, that they were seeing colors they had never seen, smelling flowers, and that they felt as if someone or more than one person had come into the room and was standing there watching or observing them, and no one was in that room that you could see.
How much of this is suggestive, or how much of this is just our imagination? I mean, skeptics would say,
of course,
okay, if you led me into this, I can imagine all. If like I said to everybody, picture the Statue of Liberty. How many of you just pictured the Statue of Liberty? All right, there it is. It's there, right? So.
But suggestion has to precede.
You didn't suggest anything.
I didn't anticipate this. My patients didn't anticipate this. It was a surprise to all of us. So you can't double-blind a study a whole lot better than that.
Right.
They came in expecting the same chiropractic they had been receiving for years. I came in expecting to deliver that same chiropractic they had been receiving for years. Now, I will tell you something interesting about it. They had no expectation, so there's no hypnosis or mind over matter or belief or faith required for this. It's just like if we place this cup of water on the table will catch the cup of water, and the cup does not have to believe in the table.
Mm-hmm.
But later on, within a year, when word got out around the world, patients started traveling in from halfway around the globe.
And a lot of these are patients who had tried everything else, so they had nothing to lose.
Many. But you know what? A lot of them came not because they wanted to, but because a well-meaning friend or relative told them they had to. They had no other option. And they would sit there in front of me and they'd say, I don't believe in this. And I'm not even thrilled that I'm here. And I would say to them, well,
yeah, someone drugged them down there, right?
I would say, all right, you don't have to believe in it, but you are here. So my suggestion is why don't you close your eyes and say it's a rare opportunity to rest your eyes for half an hour during the day and relax. And these people would have healings. If anyone didn't demonstrate the healing, it wasn't the disbeliever. It was the person who came in believing in it too much. The one who says, I know this works, it has to work. I've read every book ever written on healing. I'm sleeping with crystals under my mattress. These people had such an attachment that if anyone could slow it down or limit it, they could. But people who didn't believe in it, well, there was no attachment.
Okay. Is part of this connecting your mind to your body? That mind-body connection?
It's more than mind-body. It's an awareness beyond our basic 4 dimensions. We listen, what we call passively, to our 4-dimensional existence of height, width, depth, and time.
Right.
But when we allow ourselves more actively, you could say, to listen, we find we're part of a bigger, more multi-dimensional picture. Listening is feeling. If we go to a concert, sound waves from the concert come to our ear. We feel them first. Our brains translate the physical sensations into what we interpret as sound. This is a sense of feeling. Let me give you one.
And backing up to my question about that kind of that mind-body connection thing, and this is a bad example of it, but what I'm trying to get to is how our mind can influence. Okay, for example, when I do this right here, right? There are some people, if you can see that on the little muscle right there.
Sure.
Okay, so some people will
not
go,
so little.
how do you do that? How do you do? But it's because I remember my trainer saying your brain has to connect that you're isolating one muscle. Once you do it, you've opened another door, because people will say, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. You can if you concentrate and you start to isolate something.
So that's your intention, right?
Yes.
I'm going to answer your question differently than you expect. Give me your hand.
Okay.
Hold it right there. Hold your fingers open, just like that. Just hold them there. I'm going to bring my hand in. See the tiny movement in your fingers?
Yes.
If I push my hand down at this point, my whole arm begins to float. I'm going to pull and stretch further away. Notice that the finger still has tiny movements to it. And you
Would it
relax
otherwise? I
right
don't know.
there.
Okay.
Probably not, because look, as I wiggle my fingers, see how that movement changes?
Yes.
Are you sending a thought intending that finger to move?
No.
No, you're not. So it's a little different than
Then
getting your
actually
muscle
intending that
reflex.
thought.
It's
Okay.
not mind over matter. You are interacting with what the researchers feel is an expanded spectrum of energy, light, and information. Look at sensation for a minute. Tune in with me just one more time. I promise we won't have dead air.
Okay, all right, no, that's
All right,
okay.
so here I am. I'm feeling and I'm watching your hands. When you do this, you maybe feel nothing, or you maybe feel something. You tell me.
I feel like a little bit of,
Trembling.
yeah,
Any other sensation to it? Watch as I stretch out.
warm.
It becomes warm, right? So I'm obviously too far away from your hands to be holding in your heat. So then I must be casting off heat from
Okay,
very
you're
warm
freaky.
hands, right? Wait. So I must be casting off a heat then, probably for you to get heat, correct?
You'd be thinking, but that far away, and it's very cold in the studio.
So my hands must be warm, you would think.
Yeah.
Right? But they're not, are they?
No, they're cold. The studio's cold. My hands are cold, but inside it's feeling.
Reconnective healing seems to turn the laws of physics as we know them today, even quantum physics, upside down and inside out, where instead of heat producing heat, heat can produce cold and vice versa.
All right. Interesting, because a lot of people who have been to you have said that they've been healed from things like cancers, epilepsy, cerebral palsy, and other severe health conditions. And that's where the skeptics kind of raise the red flag and say, wait a minute. So when we come back, we're going to talk to a couple of folks who say they went down there, one of them screaming and fighting, thinking this does not work. And now he's saying this works. In the meantime, today on Facebook, we want to know, do you believe we're too quick to depend on pills and surgery and solve our health problems that way? Are there alternative methods you use that took care of your health problems that you'd like to share? Log on, let us know what you think. We'll share some of your comments later in the show. And also when we come back, we're going to see how Reconnective healing helped those other folks and how it actually works, a demonstration of how it actually works when we come back.